Hello everybody and welcome to Web Wednesdays. This is a weekly series in which I'll bring to you a JavaScript game and then show it to you and explain the code. So today's game is Block Room. It's a simple game in which you're a box and you're trying to avoid falling boxes. The instructions are here on the sidebar on the right, so you press 0 to start. As you can see, there's boxes falling down and you have to avoid them, going left or right. This speed thing is your speed. You can accelerate and you can slow down. You can also change the speed of the boxes, and if you die, you have to restart. So you can change the speed of the boxes. You can even pause the game. I'll explain the code now. And here is the code. So your standard doc type, HTML head. This is the jQuery reference library. It's a good library to use when using JavaScript. Helps you interact more with the document. These are some comments from the old website. In fact, we don't need them right now. And then here we have the sidebar, the name, score, speed, instructions, backdoor instructions. Here we have the link to our page in which you can leave feedback. And then the canvas, which is where the whole thing happens. We have CSS. CSS is kind of messy. But here's the JavaScript. So I'm going to try to go over each line quickly, just to explain what they do. So these two just define the canvas object by getting the element by ID. These four are used for interval, which is an HTML function in which a certain function runs every certain milliseconds. These two are the obstacle speed and score, the coordinate of the X player, and the speed of the player. The start makes sure that you can only press 0 once. Delay is the milliseconds between the two obstacle objects. Anti-spam makes sure that you can't spam the R button. This is some music, but it's kind of laggy, so we removed it. Pause is the pause state, so you're either paused or not. So in the beginning, you're not in pause. Can move is where your player can move or not. No delay is used. It's used for something. We'll get back to no delay. Here, this function draws a rectangle. It's not too hard to draw a rectangle, but you save 3 lines of code by doing it. This one is a multiplier to find the score based on the speed of the object and the speed of the player. It uses exponential functions. Clear interval is used to clear the interval, right? So as I mentioned before, the interval runs every so often. And when you run clear interval, it just makes it stop running. Here we have rand array, and that just makes a random array. The way the obstacle object is, there's 8 possible block positions, right? And the array holds 8 numbers, and there's 3 possible states. There's 0, there's 1, and there's -1. 0 means it's transparent, so you can go through. 1 means it's a black box, and -1 means it's a white box. This if true count makes sure that there's always at least 1 white box. Then there's the function that draws a player. Here we have the obstacle class. So this is that Boolean array. That's what it stands for. It just makes a new random array. This happens every time that the objects go back up. YV is the position of the obstacle, so the first obstacle, and then there's a for loop that's 80 to YV, so sequentially places the blocks. There's a little beep sound that plays. The move function is what makes the blocks move down. So there's a bool, right? Which is what holds the information. X is what holds the position of each blocks. Hold YV is used to clear the old Y value. So if the Y value gets close to 560, that means it's to a point where it can touch the player. I mean, if it's less than 560, it's to a point where it can't touch the player. So it just keeps adding. The reason I use sped here is because speed is already referenced somewhere else. And then here, if the y value is greater than 560, then it's going to set to 0, so it goes back up. And it makes a new Boolean array. And then it clears the whole bomb row using the old y value. And then it adds 80 to x, so it keeps going sequentially. And then it resets the value of the Boolean array. This code is called the multiplier. So every time it reaches the bomb, it gives you points. It's kind of unbalanced, but I can change that. It's subject to change. This loop is basically just a moving loop. It's what animates the whole thing. So it clears the old rectangle and then draws a new one. This has a 1 because it's a black box. This is the white box, -1. And then sequentially, plus 80. The check method, it just checks for the player's there. So if the y value is 520, is greater than 520, that means that's getting closer to the player. So for as long as the array is long, which is basically just 8, it's going to check if the array is 1 and the position of the object is greater than the position of a single of this single block, and its position is less than the position of the single block. So that means if it's completely inside, if one line is included, if one part of the block is included inside the box, then it's going to check. Or if it's the other part of the player, right? So this checks for the left side, this checks for the right side. Then it clears the interval, it sets game move to false, and then it clears the screen, which is basically just resetting the game. The bomb one checks for the bonus box. The thing is, if it checks if it's a black box, only part of the player has to be there. But for the bonus box, the whole player has to be there. And the score is basically just the speed of the objects times 5. So a speed of 1 is 5, a speed of 2 is 10. These are the objects that are created. The begin obstacle function is executed after here in game. So we're going to go over game first. Game sets no delay equals to false. And I'll get back to you on what no delay means. Interval, it just basically sends the interval for that object, sends the interval for the check function of the object, and then it sets begin obstacle with a delay of delay times 5. Delay will be shown in the bottom. And then it just runs this, sets anti-spawn to true, so you can restart again, and sets no delay to true. Delay. Oh, I think we'll get back to delay. So the add event listener just checks for what key you're pressing. 37 is left arrow. As long as if you move to the left, you're not going to cut out the screen. And if you're moving, then it's just going to clear the rectangle and then just move you to the left. Same with the right. 0 starts the game. So as long as start is true, it's going to draw player, draw rectangle, update the speed, and set start to false, so you can't press 0 again. 49 to 53 changes the speed of the object. No delay. I remember that. It's used so that you can't change the speed while the objects are being created. So after the first object is created, you can't change the speed until the second object is created. So it changes the speed and the delay between blocks. And then R is reset. As long as anti-spawn is true, then it's going to set to false. It lets the player move, clears the rectangle, clears the interval, resets a couple values, and then draws the player. Accelerate just adds to the speed as long as it's less than 80. And then this case is P pause. As long as it's not in the pause state and anti-spawn is true, then it sets can move to false. It says pause not equal to pause. So if it's in the pause state, then it's good. If it's not in the pause state, then it's going to be in the pause state. Clears interval, which just freezes the blocks. If you want the blocks to restart, you have to set the y value back to 0. So clears interval and then draws the pause bars. But if it's not in pause state, right? If it's already in pause state and anti-spam is true, then it's just gonna resume, right? It's gonna set the intervals again, set pause equal to not pause, can move to true, and draw and clear the rectangles for the pause bars. S is the slowdown. As long as the speed is greater than 1, it's gonna subtract to speed. And here is the key up. This is just for a slide animation, so that when you let go of the key, there's a little eye in the player, and when you let go, it just goes back to the center. And that's the whole code. Make sure to leave a like, leave some love. The game's going to be in the description, and tune in next week for the next video.